So we have to do the newspapers.
We do indeed.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've got a few of them this morning, haven't
Up
we?
in the sky.
Yeah.
I love the way you laugh. Is it the deployment of the police to the checkpoint with guns?
You know, no, to be honest, there's nothing to laugh about when you think of that. It's a source of concern. And in fact, before we get into these papers, maybe we should say a word or two about that. And first of all, here at Joy News, we are certainly joining the rest of society to condemn the killings of these police officers. We have a hashtag that you can also share your views under. The hashtag is I Stand By GH Police. Tell us what you think, how you feel about these killings, and make your voice heard. I stand with GH Police. That's the hashtag. I stand with GH Police. But you would have watched the news and you would have heard the announcement by the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry that they are now going to arm all police officers at all traffic checkpoints. And this is a new policy direction announced by the minister as a reaction or as a result of these recent killings. As you will be aware, some of the, in fact, all of these killings occurred at police checkpoints or with police officers at checkpoints. I can't think of any exceptions. Yeah, they were all on duty. A number of them, at least, that I remember, were at checkpoints. A police officer, a female police officer at a checkpoint was shot. And then the Kaswa ones were police officers from a checkpoint that chased a vehicle, and then two of them got shot. We also know of a police officer who was offered a lift. I don't think he was at a checkpoint. But the result here is that the Interior Minister is announcing all police officers at checkpoints will be armed. But, Roland, it does make me pause for concern. All police officers at checkpoints will be armed, whether they are trained to carry arms or not. Is that actually safe?
Whether police logically are trained to carry arms?
No, not all of them.
Oh, not all of them?
Not all of them. You know, to carry arms, you actually need ongoing training. You need target practice. So they may have basic training, which will include how to handle a weapon. But training on how to carry and properly use a weapon in the line of duty is an ongoing thing. It's not something that you get at the police academy and then it's enough, you know. So it is fair to ask the question, does that mean that every police officer at a traffic stop will now go and start doing this further training in order to carry these arms?
Fair point.
And also, is this actually the solution to the problem? Is that actually the solution? I mean, we know the details of what happened on this occasion, right? The police officer gave chase to a driver who refused to stop. When they stopped, the claim is that the driver was then going into his car for money. Why was there a need for money? Was he going to pay a spot fine or what? And anyway, this retrieval of money came after the police officer had slapped him, according to the eyewitnesses. So is there not a different problem to be solved here? Police officer gives chase to somebody who didn't stop. The person stops and then you slap him. Is that normal police procedure? And if that had not happened, could this death have been avoided? Could it?
So I think then the point you're raising also speaks to a greater issue of how in the whole practice of a police-civilian relationship, the interrogation and subsequently that relationship at the point of that interrogation is such that it doesn't result in any temperament rising, any anger and that sort of thing. Because, for example, we all know that rich people, or those who think they have arrived in a car, and most of them will buy a car and feel that at this time of the year they're not going to register it. They'll wait till January and register it. And the fact that the person drives off and the person is armed, that's a police officer, at what point does a police officer shoot, knowing that I want to be proactive enough to prevent me chasing that car and subsequently me being shot? And at what point in time would they take that decision? And I think that all over the world, for example, in the United States, there's said to be profiling, and this time it comes to racial profiling and all that. But we're talking about profiling somebody to get to know whether that person has any intent. And these days, you have very young people who are buying these cars. They may have rough haircuts. They look very rough. And so the conclusion in the mind of the ordinary person is that this guy either maybe deals in drugs, is a fraudster, is something of the sort. How do we do that sort of profiling? And that is why your point about the need for ongoing training is important. If somebody has been rusty in the hinterlands for a very long time, that person haven't had refresher training for years, and all of a sudden you have equipped that person with a gun. How do they deal with it in a certain psychological state?
Yeah.
And I think that we have to proceed with some caution.
Yeah. And I mean, let's not pretend. We need to get to these papers quickly, but let's not pretend that police officers with guns, who we are presuming have already been trained, have done some very strange things in this country. A police officer has discharged a firearm. Yeah, has discharged a firearm in a banking hall. There's been a police officer who fired at a vehicle that had children in it because the driver did not stop. That has happened in this country. That police officer, I'm not aware of them being in jail or having been sanctioned. I'm sure they are still out there on the streets holding a gun. So these things should inform our decision making. Is this, first of all, the solution to what we've seen? Yes, I think police need more protection and they need more equipment to do a good job. But they also need more training, they need more support. Just placing guns in the hands of more police officers, first of all, I don't see how that directly solves the problem. But secondly, are you not creating a new problem? And in any case, in this last and most recent instance, what the eyewitnesses are telling us is that the police officer, upon stopping this car, walked up to the driver and slapped him. There is a different problem here to be solved. Okay, now, most police officers in this country are properly trained. They do not behave this way. But there are some who do. The concept of a police officer slapping a motorist is not new. Most of us have seen it happen before. So it is common enough for it to be a problem. And now you see an armed person slapped by a police officer, then decides to commit this heinous murder in reaction. Okay, so there's a different problem to be solved here. And placing guns in their hands, I don't think will address this particular problem.
Well, as we move on, Jojo Kobna did a story about a victim of a police brutality. There was the use of arms when a police personnel came in, or some police personnel came in to resolve some chieftaincy dispute or some land dispute, etc. And the ensuing struggle, the gun, he was shot. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he's a victim. And we've had other stories that have been replicated in the media about the police using the guns inappropriately. And I think that we have to go ahead with all this with some level of caution. I don't know whether it was at a cabinet meeting or a police council meeting that the interior minister decided to take the decision.
The thinking that went into
because
the
there are
decision.
people who run off all the time away from police, and the police chase them and apprehend them using DV plates, etc. I'm sure the scenario that ensued in that situation may have ensued tens of times across Ghana. Was that the decision that was taken by the one who perpetrated the crime? Was also the action taken by the police the same action as in this instance? So, I mean, we all want to support the police. We have to take the right decision in order for us to have some.
No, we absolutely do support the police in condemning these killings. That must.
That's what we
must make sure that that is unequivocal. The hashtag is I stand with GH Police, and we want to hear you expressing your views about what has happened with that hashtag. We'll read out some of your messages as soon as we have the opportunity. So look, let's not make a mistake. We completely condemn the killing of these police officers, regardless of what happened before. And of course, we are calling on those who may be in a position to help the police resolve this matter, to give whatever information they have to the police to help with their investigation. But we must still ask the question, arming all police officers at traffic points, does that solve the problem? You know, there was even a story at Tishinungwa. Some guy was accused of stealing a phone.
Yeah.
And they were trying to run off instead of being arrested. The police shot one of them dead. I mean, a phone. Is that a capital offense? If the person had escaped, is there no other way of tracking them down and arresting them must you shoot them dead to prevent them from escaping with a phone? You know, so let's ask a few questions before we make some of these decisions. I have the Daily Graphic this morning, the Daily Statesman, the Gold Street Business, and the Ghanaian Times. What have you got?
I have the Finder Dispatch, Daily Guide, the publisher, the Ghanaian publisher.
Okay, good stuff. Would you like to start, or should I?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. Let's kick it off with the Daily Graphic this morning. The banner headline is this: over 9,000 freshers stranded. Authorities claim registration portal hacked. It's got a picture of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and I believe that is the university at the center of the story. Details begin on page 1, front page, and continue on to page 3. My image tarnished unduly. That's according to the PPA CEO. Ihadu. All right. Don't panic over new JHS reforms. That's Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwah, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Yes, he says nobody should panic over the uniforms. I think he's driving home the fact that it's not yet a compulsory requirement. Tema Motorway interchange 60% complete. Work has been going on there for quite a while, and I look forward to the final results. Don't trade cocoa lands for Galamsey, Cocoa Board CEO. That is a story on the back page of the Daily Graphic this morning. Let's do the center spread in honor of Mama B, who's not here with us at the moment. Minimum wage up by 11% is on the center spread this morning. Government will equip youth with employable skills. That's the president speaking. I think he's still in Japan. There's a funny position in which the president was photographed for this story. There's somebody standing behind him, and the person, the corner of the person's head is showing, and it looks as if the president has some backbush hairstyle, which he certainly does not. But for a moment, at a glance, it looks like that. Just for that novelty, buy yourself a copy of the Daily Graphic today.
Makes it look funny, though.
Yeah.
Like a bald backbush.
Yes. Can you imagine?
You remember the haircut of backbush?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right.
3 establishments sign MOU to improve rice production. That's an interesting story on the center spread of the Daily Graphic this morning. Let's do the Daily Statesman next. And here's the banner headline: will be a shining example. President upbeat about Ghana's successful implementation of Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030? You know about that?
No. Is it the development plan we have now?
The development plan is supposed to be a 40-year development plan.
Have we...
No. They changed it to 7 years, actually. 7 years. So that still would come before... Yeah, 7 years. That would still come before 2030. That's interesting. All right, okay. We'll learn a bit more about Agenda 2030. We'll inform you about it. But the president is saying that it will be implemented. And he's saying that in Japan. Population Council clashes with Presby Church over sex education in schools. I knew this would happen. You remember there was a comment from the Presbyterian Church over some sort of caution to authorities about how to do sex education and to make sure it doesn't go against Christian values. What does that even mean? Is there a way of having sex that is unchristian? I mean, if you and your wife are having sex, are there some ways you could have sex that would be classified as unchristian?
I think the position is about when you...
The position?
The position, no, not the position of the sex. The position or the stance of the church, or those who tend to advocate against, is exposing children early enough to so-called sexual education.
Okay, so I think the Christian principle is that sex must happen after marriage, right? That's the Christian principle. The situation in real life is that sex happens before marriage a lot. So the point is that we don't want that sex that is happening, whether before or after marriage, to become a cause of illness, become a cause of any other social vices. And in order to avoid that, there must be education. So a person who is...
You mean in Ghana, more people are having sex before they get married?
No, I'm saying that a lot of people have sex before they get married in Ghana. I'm saying it happens a lot. That is the reality.
You are not saying majority.
The situation. I have not said that. Yeah, I'm saying it happens a lot. I have no way of knowing whether it's the majority. Yeah, but having said that, I think the idea is that there must be education in order to protect individuals and, of course, society as a whole. Now, that education must be factual. Okay, so when the church says, don't say things that go against our principles, so if there is a fact that must be shared in order for people to be educated about sex and stay safe, and that fact is not a fact that the Christians, you know, support, it mustn't be shared.
Yes, that is exposing children early enough.
Sex education is to educate young people on sex. It must happen.
Yeah, but you're going to mention vagina, penis,
yes,
and coitus.
These things exist. They exist.
But if you expose the principle is that if you expose the children early enough,
what will they do with it?
It makes them experiment.
Really? Really?
Yeah, that's the position.
So when
the fear is that it's a fear.
I've educated my son about cars. Has that made him a driver?
Or gone to spark your car?
Has he ever done? Has that made him do that? I've educated my son about aeroplanes. Has that made him a pilot? I've educated my son about animals. Has that made him a zoologist?
Maybe perhaps he doesn't have access.
But he doesn't have access to what? Cars or aeroplanes or animals?
Because I'm sure you keep it under lock and key.
But if it wasn't locked, he would be driving it by now.
He could experiment.
You see,
there's a high probability.
Sometimes hypocrites like to act as if
you may have a
we don't know. Okay. I'm not saying you. I'm talking about hypocrites. And I'm saying that they often like to act as if there is no response, there is no other force.
Can we have a 15-minute segment or conversation on this and let the public in?
That would be fantastic. That's a brilliant idea. In fact, let's do that. Let's see if we can find a few minutes later today and get your views on sex. Oh, not today. Well, it's Friday.
If we have. Yeah.
We'll do Dear AM, by the way. That comes later. So let's see if we can squeeze some few minutes for that. It's important. Let's get the views.
If you expose your children to early sexual education, is it good or bad?
Indeed.
And in what form should they be?
Yeah.
Because you are saying that because it's sexual education and this is how sex is done, and you are cautioning people or you're educating, you have to say it. But you have to say penis, you have to say vagina.
Yes, those are the names of the things that you're educating the child about.
The labia, vulva.
Yes.
And all that.
Yes, you must educate them. And by the way, what I was going to say is that there is always a responsibility of the educator. Let's not pretend as if we are simply passing the information on to the children and telling them, go and do what you like with it. You know? So for me, I think we have to understand that education, there is a proper way of educating people. The same way that I educated my child about cars and he didn't become a driver.
Have you educated your son about sex?
Sex, yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's 9 years old, by the way.
I'll take a cue.
Yeah. And it hasn't turned him into a sexually active child because I did it properly.
Yet.
Okay, Daily Statesman.
Were you educated on sexual education?
I wasn't. And guess what? I was, okay, well, we'll talk about that another day. But I can actually say this. I shouldn't be ashamed. I became sexually active at a very, very early age.
Because you were not educated?
Well, I wasn't educated, and yet I became sexually active at a very early age. All right, so that means...
and it's because you were not sexually educated?
I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make is that even without the sexual education, it didn't prevent me, a child, from becoming sexually active early. Do you get what I'm saying?
You were exposed to pornographic
materials. It is not sex
well, we have
education.
5 minutes. Let's quickly.
Yeah, let's do this quickly. I think we've used up all our discussion time, but we can still give you all the headlines. So, Daily Statesman has these. Will be a shining example.
You haven't finished on that. We'll say one more.
Yeah, Toyota to begin production in Ghana before August 2020. That's also on the front page of the Daily Statesman. Well, assembly is a production process. 5 Ghanaian football personalities whose deaths broke our hearts. That's on the back page of the Daily Statesman this morning. And Asante Kotoko complete signing of Samuel Ibrahim. That's also on the back page. Go Street Business real quick. More tap sales expected than excessive new issuances. Roland, stop what you're doing. Apex Bank assures safety for RCBs. Denies Bank of Ghana closure claims. And it says RCBs committed to new 1 million Ghana cedi requirement by February 2020. Also on the front page, GCX stakeholders to improve rice value chain. government revising national energy policy. Shareholders approve ADB's 127 million Ghana cedis GAT fund, and Cocoa Board moves to end labor-intensive farming. All right, Ghanaian Times next. Yeah, Ghanaian Times next. Minimum wage up 11.82 Ghana cedis, and that takes effect from January 1st, 2020. So that would be the new minimum wage, 11.82 Ghana cedis. President woos Toyota Suzuki to Ghana, and government buys 4,500 bulletproof vests for personnel. Also, Interior Minister and IGP visit families of slain cops. That's all on the front page. On the back page of the Ghanaian Times this morning, this year's NAFAC launched in Koforidua. NAFAC still goes on here. And 45 artisans in bamboo and rattan industry undergoing training. That wraps it up for the headlines.
Okay.
Now, you wanted to say?
No, let me just quickly go through this. I'll do that in a minute. So I have 3 papers. Let me quickly. Daily Guide has on the front page, blow by blow, how Kaswa cops died. Tragic story on the front page of the Daily Guide. Made in Ghana, Toyota, 2020. Otumfor's chief autopsy report ready. 1V, 1D. One village, one dam, my project, Mahama. Back page of the Daily Guide. Ex-Liverpool star jailed. Just shows that in England and elsewhere in the West, you are not above the law. Dean Sanders has a picture beside it, and it's former Manchester United striker Romelu Lukaku. It's a Belgian international star. No boost for fat Lukaku. We're told that has lost a stone in weight, and we're told, according to the the English tabloids, that one of the reasons why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer let him go was because he came back from the holidays overweight for a normal football star of Manchester United. And then we have Sarri, former coach of Chelsea, current coach of Juventus, smoking angers Juventus fans. Yeah, and they have the Champions League draw. Let me see whether Manchester United is somewhere in there. They are in Group L. There's no Group L in the UEFA Champions League, but Manchester United and Arsenal, they find themselves there. Some of the notable fixtures, we have PSG in Group A, Real Madrid, Charlie. This year they go big. Now let's go to the Finder. Toyota endorses Ghana, set August 2020 to adore the first Ghana assembled vehicles. That's the Finder. President Akufo-Addo formally commissioned Stockbridge 3 III to mediate Bembela chieftaincy dispute. Minimum wage increase by 11%, effective January 1, 2020. Down there, we still have affirmative action bill, demo hit Accra today, and pay depositors quickly to restore confidence in the banking sector. Baptist Convention, already we know that the rural banks are supposed to meet up a minimum capital of some 1 million Ghana cedi. And then I promise a minute, I have 4 seconds. Daily Dispatch, Indum's data list of 423 million Ghana cedis out, includes politicians, churches, companies, and schools. And GM was my bank as well. My name is not on the list, and so I've escaped the public scrutiny. Plus Indum's PPP. Focus on the EPL. Alex Mode on Africa, its assets in the West, and Joe Gatti deadline on Takrady rail lines. And these are rail lines we're doing. I don't know what's the plan. We're doing it. Anyway, so we have 30 seconds.
Yeah, so let's hear it.
I think you can talk about sexual education to children, but I don't know how we can do it in such a way that we don't have to be explicit. So I think we should defer it to when they are about 15 years.
Okay, so the explicit nature of sex education is what is a bother for you.
Yeah.
What do you think the negative effects of that explicit nature
experiment.
will be? So you think when you educate children about sex, it will make them go and have sex?
Yes.
Then that means you've educated them badly.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we educate children about all kinds of things in the classroom today. Do they then go out and do them? Everything that we educate them on?
It depends. If you educate the child
children
to experiment
to-
on something,
so
or
to-
not to experiment on something, they would want to.
But is that what we are doing? We're teaching them to experiment.
No, we're not teaching them to experiment. We're rather trying to have some preventive education. Give them the do's
So
and
we
the
want to
don'ts,
so
the
what we want to
advantages
do
and
is
disadvantages.
explain how sex is so that it is demystified. Because sometimes it is mystery that makes somebody want to experiment.
Have you had the explanation to this? To be that rather, when they experiment, but even use the more preventive approach for you getting either some viral diseases, etc., or STDs, that's the best way, rather than not educating them at all.
So no, the principle
you-
is that, no, I've heard that, but the way it's actually put is that these children are going to experiment.
Anyway.
Yes, because
in
because we haven't educated them properly about it. They are going to experiment. So if they are going to experiment, let's at least prevent the negative effects of these experiments, which is disease and unwanted pregnancy.
in
and
the
so
absence
forth.
of any education.
Yes, because they will do it anyway.
Charlie, you've won the debate.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that. I think we want to hear from you. We want to hear your view on the sex education. You know, the explicit nature
We have to do
of it
sports.
seems to be a bother for some. What do you think? Let's do sports. It's time now. We're back with even more. But right now, though, Benedict and the team have put together all the
and then
headlines.
it's the birthday of Mr. Kelly Gadgetpo of
Oh, is that
Enterprise
so?
Group. Yes. of
Okay.
Enterprise Group.
Happy
Chairman of
birthday to
ECG as well.
Yes, yes, indeed. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Kelly
Kelly
Gadgetpo.
Gadgetpo.
And right now, though, it's time for sports. Benedict and the team are ready.